Hi, I'm Mary.
And I'm Katie. And this is the Housewife Did It. I forgot my next line.
True Crime Edition.
And Together Edition.
Yes. We only do Sultry Edition when I have the True Crime.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Thank God.
And probably would be better for me to speak because mine's all in my nose.
Yeah, I'm going to have to take a lot of sips.
Yeah.
I do have some real time true crime, but I wanted to mention one thing that's not a crime. One of these is also not a crime. But did you see about the gorilla at the Fort Worth Zoo? So two zookeepers got trapped in an enclosure with a male silverback gorilla at the Fort Worth Zoo. They were feeding him, and in the video, he's standing on one side of the enclosure. And he starts throwing things, and he runs to the other side where the zookeepers are, and he's staring at them. And then he moves and stares at the other one, and he turns around for a second, and she runs, and they close the door, and they got out. They're fine, but it was
What? Shoot, she doesn't know. Oh my God. Really not to. No, get the kids away. Yeah.
Come here, guys. We're gonna go inside.
Yeah.
We're gonna go inside.
She's a no.
Come on, guys. Let's go inside.
Come on, guys.
We're gonna go inside. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. God help her. 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 God protect her.
You know, let this animal come here.
Animals obey. Hear the sound of her voice.
God, would you please protect her?
God.
I think they train them. I think he smells her, but I don't think I didn't know that.
Please protect her, Father.
Something very enticing.
Please protect her. Please protect her, Father. Do not let this animal come near her. Protect her, Lord.
Oh my gosh. God. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Lord. 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 Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Lord.
It was very intense video
Yeah.
because he was literally throwing things and then like watching them.
Yeah.
They couldn't move for a minute. Scary.
Scary.
But my real-time true crime. Should I start with the one that is actually a crime or the one that is not a crime?
Whatever you want.
I guess we'll work our way up to the crime. In Nashville, last Monday, a small plane crashed into the shoulder of Nashville's Interstate 40 in a grassy area behind a Costco and burst into flames. There were 2 adults and 3 children on board that were all killed on impact. So officials are working on identifying the victims. At least they were when I wrote this. But they do know that they're Canadian citizens. The plane was approved for an emergency landing after reporting engine and power failure, but the pilot quickly told air traffic control that they would not make it to the emergency tarmac, and the interstate was shut down. Thankfully, no buildings or cars were hit in the crash, so it was only the people on board that were injured or killed.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I think the interstate's back up and running now. Also in Nashville, a woman was found deceased in a creek north of Nashville. She was identified as 44-year-old Emily Bradley of Burns, Tennessee, who had been missing since February 21st. She had last been seen in East Nashville on February 18th. She was found on March 2nd in Whites Creek near Buena Vista Pike. Her cause of death has been found to be blunt force trauma to the head. People are still police. There are people too. Police specifically are still searching for her missing gray Chevy Cruze. It has a Florida license plate with a tag number 086PML. If you have any information about Emily Bradley's death or the whereabouts of her vehicle, please call Nashville Crime Stoppers at 615-742-7463.
Yeah, the likelihood someone might know something in Nashville is better than Bloomington, Indiana last week.
You always gotta try.
Yeah.
Try to get through this without pausing too many times to drink.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This is unfortunately kind of a short one. I worked my little ass off to get more information. Couldn't find it, which is crazy because this is a serial killer case.
Wow.
I do want to give a content warning for harm to children, actual living children this time, child sexual abuse, and pregnancy loss. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Am I not ready?
With the harm to children and child sexual abuse?
Yep. I'm ready.
All right. On February 25th, 1980, in Blountstown, Florida, 2-year-old Cassidy Marie Johnson was taken to the hospital accompanied by her parents. She had been brought in because her babysitter, Christine, had told them that Cassidy had suddenly passed out and fallen out of her crib and hit her head. Yeah. Okay. Christine explained that when she realized Cassidy didn't seem to be breathing and did not seem to have a pulse, she tried to revive her herself but was unable to, so she called the sheriff's department and an ambulance came to transport Cassidy to the hospital in Tallahassee, Florida. Once they got there, Cassidy was diagnosed with encephalitis, which is inflammation of the brain. 3 days later, Cassidy, known affectionately by her parents as Muffin,
Oh my gosh.
died,
Sweet.
unfortunately. On a lot of the news reporting, they just straight up call her Muffin the whole time.
Cute.
Her autopsy noted a bruised scalp and bone in her head, and listed her cause of death as blunt force trauma to the skull. The medical examiner later told police that they did not believe the babysitter's account of what had happened to Cassidy and recommended that they investigate the babysitter. However, apparently the police wrote this down on a sticky note or something because the note they made of the attending physician's concerns was lost and they never conducted an investigation.
Nice.
Yeah. A short time after Cassidy's death, 3-year-old Kyle Summerlin became critically ill while under Christine, the same babysitter's care. He was taken to the doctor and was under their care for meningitis, which I have learned is inflammation of the brain and spinal cord.
What?
I did not know that that's what meningitis was.
Weird.
But ultimately he did recover. So he made
an
it.
itis isn't usually that, right?
Well, encephalitis. We just said
right.
inflammation of the brain.
I guess they're all itises.
Yeah. 2 months later, in 1980, 4-year-old Jeffrey Davis died under the supervision of the same babysitter, Christine, who also happened to be his aunt.
Oh!
Yeah, a lot of these kids are her nieces and nephews.
Oh my god.
They noted that Christine had immediately taken to Jeffrey, and he loved to play Tickle Monster with her. When his parents arrived home, they found Christine calmly sitting around and drinking Kool-Aid, but Jeffrey was clearly not breathing.
Like in her line of vision? Like, was it, like, obvious she should, like, know?
So this is, like, one of those things that I could not tell where she was and where he was in the house, but she was aware that he was not breathing.
Oh, okay.
Because when they asked her about it, she told them that he just didn't wake up from his nap.
Which is different than not breathing.
Well, I think she said, like,
he went to sleep and stopped breathing.
Yeah. He just never woke up. Jeffrey's autopsy revealed his cause of death as myocarditis, which is a heart condition also known as inflammatory cardiomyopathy, which is caused by inflammation of the heart muscle, can cause shortness of breath, chest pain, decreased ability to exercise, and irregular heartbeat. Essentially, what they found was that his heart had expanded to an abnormal size.
I wonder what makes a heart inflame.
So,
you know, like a brain inflaming feels like obvious, you know.
I did look into this because he was not the only one that had that diagnosis. And so we are going to talk about, like, where it can come from. But myocarditis is very rarely fatal. And doctors noted that the expansion of Jeffrey's heart did not seem nearly big enough to have killed him.
Oh.
It is.
But they didn't see other stuff. Like, at the time.
That was the only thing they saw.
Okay.
It's treatable with medications. It's usually resolved within months. And in fact, it's even rare to need a device like a pacemaker or anything to support normal heart function once you're diagnosed with myocarditis.
It's just like you shouldn't work out, but you'll be fine.
It'll go down.
Yeah.
But they couldn't find any other reason to explain his sudden death. 3 days later, Jeffrey's funeral was held, and Christine was asked to watch Jeffrey's 2-year-old cousin, Joseph Spring.
Nobody is like, I don't trust this girl.
I guess she's your family, but he was known as Joe Boy to his loved one. Cute. And they left him with Christine so that his parents could attend the funeral. A few hours later, he was dead as well. With what doctors diagnosed as the same heart condition, which they believe came as the result of a viral infection. So they thought that Jeffrey...
Oh, they had, like, spread it to each other.
Yes, that Jeffrey and Joseph had gotten the same viral infection, and both of them, like, developed the myocarditis as a result. Christine told his parents that while he was napping...
Certainly, they're onto her now, right? Someone dies... Like, one of them dies while they're at the funeral for the last one.
Yeah, so she told his family that while he was napping, she heard him wake up screaming, and she ran into the bedroom, but by the time she got to him, he was already dead. Here's why they don't seem to, like, think she's doing something. So a week later, Christine herself was hospitalized with a viral infection in her digestive tract.
Okay.
She speculated...
we're just all getting sick.
Right. She speculated it could have come from caring for 2 sick children recently, but the doctors did not see any connection to Christine's viral infection, those within her digestive tract, and the viral infections that had caused the boys' hearts to expand.
Yeah.
After the hospitalization... In addition to the deaths and the illnesses of children she was caring for, Christine swore to stay away from children. However,
she's like, it's a curse.
Yeah. She says that.
She's like, oh no.
What's happening?
Like Phoebe Buffet going to the dentist.
Why me?
Yeah.
I shaped this. She changed her mind quickly after being released from the hospital, stating, quote, "The way I look at it, there's some reason God is letting me go through this. If God hadn't wanted me to go through this, he wouldn't have let it happen."
Letting you go through this?
It's giving, if God wanted him to graduate, he would give him the right answer.
Yeah. Your boyfriend's 24 and still in high school. Yeah, also, like, you're not going, like, I mean, I guess I get it that if you were not guilty and kids
this
are
could
just
be traumatic.
Dying, but, like, these families are going through this, like, more, you know?
Soon after Christine got out of the hospital, she was babysitting 3-year-old Charles Hale, I don't know, Heel, and his 14-month-old brother Jeffrey. when both boys had to be taken to the hospital. They had both inexplicably become ill and went into convulsions, but they did recover over time.
I am like really eager to find out the method of these.
Everything sounds so different.
Yeah. And like feels like hard to like create convulsions or create heart inflation.
And
like
brain swelling.
The brain like made sense to me because it's like traumatic brain injury, but I'm like, how do you like create all these other like? How do you make a viral infection?
Crazy. In July of 1981, in Perry, Florida, 77-year-old Wilbur Swindle died in his living room. It was his first day with his new nursing assistant and housekeeper, Christine. She was...
What? Grown people too?
I know. She was reportedly the only person with Wilbur when he died. Wilbur was found face down on his living room floor with his pockets turned inside out.
Why?
Deputies reported that Wilbur was known to carry large quantities of money and bury them on his property.
But 14-month-olds are not.
No. When Wilbur was found, there were several areas of his yard that appeared to have been dug up.
She said, I'm just looking to make sure he's not a serial killer. Not Dorothea Puente back here. Just wanted to check.
After Wilbur was buried, a relative of his brought up concerns about seeing blue marks around his neck. His body was exhumed and photos of the blue marks were submitted into evidence.
Like blue, like his skin is bluing? Like bruising bluing? Or, okay, I didn't know if we meant like marker or like paint blue.
No.
Or like, okay.
A few months later, Christine's own niece, 8-month-old Jennifer Yvonne Daniels, died. In some reports, she's listed as Joseph Spring's sister.
Joe
Boy's sister.
Okay.
But not in all of them. Her mother had left her in the car while she ran into the supermarket. When she returned to the car, Christine was holding Jennifer in her arms.
Was Christine even supposed to be with them?
Yeah.
She just like okay.
Yeah, they were all in the car together.
Okay.
When she got back, so Christine stayed in the car with the baby.
Okay.
And Mom's like, I'll be back. When she got back, Christine was holding Jennifer in her arms and announced, the baby ain't breathing. Doctors determined that the baby had suddenly stopped breathing, and they suspected it was due to sudden infant death syndrome or SIDS. SIDS is pretty much exactly what it sounds like, the inexplicable death of a child under the age of 1 year old. The family wondered if it could have come from Jennifer's round of immunization shots at the county health clinic right before they headed to the grocery store.
My eyes.
But medical examiners found blue marks around her neck. Christine told reporters that she was holding Jennifer as she got her immunizations that morning and continued to hold her when they got to the grocery store. So they think that the immunizations killed her that fast.
That's crazy.
Yeah. While her stepsister went into the store, Christine said Jennifer simply grew very quiet, and she said, I was just hollering, oh, not again. I'm sure you were, bitch.
Yeah.
On July 2nd, 1982, 10-week-old Travis Dwayne Coleman, who had just recovered from pneumonia, died in Blountstown, Florida, while in the care of his babysitter, Christine, at the mobile home she shared with her boyfriend, Robert Johnson.
But I'm telling you, like, even if they don't think she's a killer, how does this girl say, like,
have a bad vibe?
10 kids at this point have ended up dead in my care. I got a curse, but you want me to watch yours?
Right.
Like, no, I don't. I really don't.
Travis's mother, Lisa Coleman, had left him with Christine and Robert overnight. Christine reported that she had last noticed Travis was alive at 3 a.m. when she had given him his formula and changed his diaper before putting him back to sleep. At the autopsy, doctors noted several internal injuries that could only come as the result of suffocation.
Mm.
They notified police, and Christine Falling was brought in for an interview. Dr. Flora Wellings of Tampa rushed to defend Christine, saying that she was a victim of circumstance. She stated that Christine and the children all came from poverty and likely all suffered from the same diseases.
Like?
They dirty.
Like what? Diseases?
Poverty diseases. That's what she's saying. Poor people are sick all the
They're
time.
just ill. But why is Christine not dead then?
She's too big. She's
The 77-year-old died.
She's a big ass woman. You look at pictures of her next to like police officers. She's like Ed Kemper.
Oh wow.
Sorry, off track. But yeah, basically this woman was like, well, they're all poor, so they're sickly.
Ill.
Always. Alternatively, Dr. Robert Gunn, an official of the State Department of Health and Rehabilitative Services in Tallahassee, said, quote, I know of no lethal virus that would kill children in that manner. There's some kind of coincidence or connection, but I don't think it's a medical one.
Yeah, and they don't all have connections to a virus. Like
Right.
the inflammation of the brain and like
They don't all have the same illness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's like, you can't blame
Just
her
various poor diseases.
You can't blame her for these people being poor.
She herself is poor.
She's also poor. Surprisingly, murder at the hands of Christine was not the only possibility considered in the mysterious deaths of these children. In Blountstown, with a population of only 4,000 people, it seemed that no one wanted to discuss it, but no one could keep themselves from discussing it.
Yeah.
So they were all talking about it. One theory thrown out was that the children were victims of voodoo or hexes.
Do they at least believe she was the one hexing them? Okay.
Of course not. She's a white woman.
Mm-hmm.
In the 1980s, and specifically in Florida in the 1980s, many Americans had negative ideas of Haitian refugees and believed they were completing voodoo rituals and sacrifices in the U.S.
They just wanted to take all of the white children out?
In the early 80s, the U.S. had made significant changes to its immigration policies, which directly and negatively impacted refugees fleeing Haiti and coming to the U.S. by boat. They were being arrested directly off of their small sailboats and taken into detention centers with horrible conditions while waiting for their asylum hearings. In the midst of these refugees being arrested, some people did manage to safely make it to the U.S., and it was speculated that it was because they had sacrificed other passengers from their boats as part of a voodoo ritual to ensure safe passage. They said, bye, we're in there, sorry. That's what people thought. What is this based on?
One life to save 9.
I don't know. As rumors swirled and stories were made up and then blown out of proportion, it came to be believed by many that Haitian refugees were a danger to U.S. citizens as their voodoo practices were a threat. These ideologies were even featured prominently in news reporting at the time. In reality, this theory was nothing more than racially biased fear, as the real suspect had been the most obvious one the entire time. When Christine was initially interviewed, she told police, quote, I've been through it with 5 youngins. I don't know what's happening. It's enough to get you scared. I have to say it like this accent.
Florida.
I can't stop. My hardest job was to keep my mind off it as much as I can. I don't think I'm to blame just because I'm not having an easy life. Maybe it will straighten up one day. I don't see how that's ever going to happen. End quote.
5? I feel like we're past 5.
We mentioned 3 that got sick but survived, and 1 adult.
Oh, and then 5 died.
5 kids died.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
Not cool. That's not cool, but got it.
She eventually confessed to murdering 3 of the children. Cassidy,
what? Quickly? Like fairly quickly?
Not super quickly.
Okay.
But eventually. She confessed to murdering Cassidy, Travis, and Jennifer by what she called smotheration.
Oh no.
Suffocating them with soft and thick pillows or blankets, to ensure there would be no marks.
Did she say why? Do we ever
Yes.
find out why? Okay.
Well, she talks about it.
Okay.
She claimed that she had heard voices in her head telling her to kill the babies, and that she followed what she had seen on TV, but tweaked it her own way to make it quick and easy.
I love when people, I don't like literally, but I love when people like say like, yeah, I'll confess to like some,
yeah,
but those other two, no, they were accidents, just in the exact same way. You know, like, come on.
Right. She was charged with first-degree murder. Jennifer's mother and Christine's stepsister, Carol Phillips, later said that Christine told her she had killed Jennifer before confessing to police.
Like, long before?
Mm-mm.
Just like
right
hey,
before.
I'm gonna go tell them.
Yeah.
Okay.
When asked why she did that, Christine said she thought Carol should hear it from her instead of from the newspapers.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's kind.
I'm so glad I heard it that way.
Yeah.
So let me tell you about Christine. Because what are the odds that this bitch was born as Christine Laverne Slaughter?
I kind of thought falling was pretty
I know.
ironic,
You're like,
too.
oh, that's crazy. Slaughter.
Yeah.
Christine Laverne Slaughter was born on March 12th, 1963. I had to make sure that wasn't today. in Perry, Florida. Her life is a wild ride.
Oh.
To her 65-year-old father, Thomas, and her 16-year-old mother, Anne.
It's literally Thomas Ravenel.
Christine was their second child, meaning her mother started having children likely around the age of 14.
Prison!
Mm-hmm.
Prison! Take him to prison! I mean, he'll be dead soon, but...
Yeah. Old ass things. Early in Christine's childhood, she was diagnosed with frontal lobe epilepsy and was considered mentally challenged in the 60s. Due to
probably
her,
used worse words than that.
Yeah. Due to her below low average IQ. I was like, this wording sounds confusing, so let me explain, because I do this all the time. IQ tests are scored on a bell curve range from very high average to very low average. They all have the word average in them.
Yeah.
So the low average score is around 70. Christine's IQ was 69, which put her below the bottom of the low average range. So that's why she was considered below low average. It was also reported that Christine was experiencing both sexual and physical abuse by her father. He reportedly once hit her with a glass bottle, and she was hospitalized. At the hospital, her mother told doctors that Christine had been hit by a car. She was like, this sounds better. But
I'm assuming she was like, we don't know who did it.
Yeah. But the incident had happened so quickly that she was unable to see the driver or the license plate. Due to the evidence of blunt force trauma to Christine's head, the doctors did not believe her mother's story and reported it to police.
And it's like, I get that. Like, that's often what, like, these mothers will do.
Yeah. But why would you pick hit by a car?
Yeah, but I was going to say, like, but now that they are sus, they're thinking, like, what are you hiding?
Yeah.
Like, did you do this to her? So, like, send that man to prison. Stop lying for him, because you're going to get in trouble.
And how bad was it that
you thought
the equivalent was being hit by a car?
Yeah.
But
maybe she has also a low IQ.
Also, she's maybe 18.
Yeah.
Because I think Christine was under the age of 3 at this point. So her mom's probably about 18 at the time. The report was never followed up on. Christine's family was living below the poverty line, and her parents began fighting often. I just can't imagine fights between a 65-year-old and a 16-year-old, like marriage spats. Like, I can't. But they were fighting often, and eventually they came to the conclusion that they could no longer support their children. Christine's sister reported that the two girls were left by their mother at a supermarket when Christine was about 3 years old. Christine and her sister were taken in by foster parents Dolly and Jesse Falling. Jesse had known the Slaughter family, and he and his wife had always wanted children of their own, so when they saw that the Slaughters were unable to care for their 2 daughters, it seemed like a perfect fit.
Like when they saw them in the grocery store?
No, I think they were taken in to custody, and then like they were like, oh, they heard about it, and they're like, oh, we know them. It was not a perfect fit because reports began to come in that Jesse was sexually abusing the girls as well. After investigating, the allegations were found to be true. However, it wasn't until the family's pastor became concerned and reignited the investigation that the girls were removed from the Falling home.
How old's the sister? Younger than Christine?
She's older.
Oh, okay. Oh,
I don't know how much older, but at least 9 months older. Yeah. When Christine was 9 years old, she went to a home for abandoned children.
They still took that last name, even though they were removed? Or did she just, like, start using it later because she, like, knows it?
I think they were, I don't know. They were using the last name already, I guess. And then, I don't know. Sorry. During her time in this home, Christine was seen as odd by the other children. She was taking heavy epilepsy medication and likely had what we would consider today a developmental delay or a cognitive disability. And many of the other children began to bully her for these things as well as her weight. Christine was known as a pathological liar, a kleptomaniac, and someone who regularly acted out for attention. She began to kill animals, most often cats, by throwing them from tall heights or squeezing them until they suffocated.
Animal abuse would have been a good content warning, Mary.
I think I have like I'm so sorry. I have like a serious issue with like when podcasts are giving like a full murder episode and they're like, oh, we're about to talk about a cat, and I'm like,
yeah.
I'm listening to you talk about somebody who got chopped into bits.
Yeah, true. I feel like that's not often you hear that about women, like female serial killers, that they had the start with animals. But also it seems like a different start. Like she wasn't like, like they say that like you'll have an interest in like the body.
Her reasoning was different.
Yeah, like she's not like dissecting them.
No. She would later claim that the reason she did this was because she loved cats. So one reason was the squeezing them was because she loved them so much. Aww. She was hugging them.
It's me.
But when she started throwing them off of buildings, she said she wanted to test if they really had 9 lives.
See, and that's like could be a lie.
Yeah.
But also like that's a cognitive impairment. Right. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to say she's not very smart in the same breath that we say cognitive impairment. So let me change that sentence.
But yeah, I mean, she's like, cognitively impaired. She can't like
the full functionality of that thought.
Really remove that.
Yeah, sorry. In September of 1977, when Christine was 14 years old, she left school in 7th grade because her parents had arranged a marriage for her to a 23-year-old man, which some reports...
Who are her parents at this point?
Her birth parents.
Oh, she's back with them.
No.
They just said...
They arranged
Where's that girl of ours that we haven't seen in years? She should get married by now.
I think so.
Cool.
Some reports say that this was her stepbrother. I was like, ain't no fucking way that they would let that happen legally. Yes, there is way. According to the state of Florida versus Egan in 1973, the age of competency for marriage in males was 14 years old and for females was 12 years old. The law at the time went on to say, quote, any marriage, however, occurring between the ages of 7 years and the age of consent was merely voidable. But a marriage where one or both of the parties were under the age of 7 years was void and without legal significance.
Huh?
I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
That's not the important part. A marriage by one above the age of consent but below the age of contract generally is fully valid. Although not required at common law, the state may require the consent of the parent or guardian as a preliminary to the marriage of minors. So
when they said boys develop slower than girls, they did not mean let girls get married at 12.
Right.
Because they're so mature.
Right. But so basically,
Florida,
since she was above the age of competency for marriage, and he was a legal adult, and her parents allowed it, they could be married.
Her IQ is not above the age of competency.
Correct. Christine shortly became pregnant but lost the baby. She and her husband were divorced within 6 weeks.
Kim K.
But that means that she got pregnant and miscarried in that time period. In the time they were married, they fought almost daily. Christine once allegedly threw a 30-pound stereo at her husband's head. During the separation, Christine bounced around and slept on the couches of various family members. And after the divorce, Christine became a full hypochondriac. Hypochondria is defined as an obsession with the idea of having an undiagnosed but serious medical condition. Christine was hospitalized 50 times in the span of 2 years.
Yikes.
With no medical diagnoses or real issues ever discovered, aside from irregular levels of menstrual bleeding.
That sucks.
Yeah, but not 50 hospital visits. She was in the hospital pretty much bi-weekly, claiming to be plagued by things like snake bites, bleeding tonsils, dislocated bones, falls, burns, etc. I've heard some people speculate that they wonder if these are injuries she got in childhood, like from abuse or just like childhood accidents, and could not seek medical attention for them at the time.
Sure.
And so now that she can do things on her own, she's trying to claim them now.
Yeah, like overcompensating.
But the doctors never found like any of those things to be true.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a lot of those are things that are just like visible.
Yeah, no, you did not give advice.
It's like easier to say like I think I have a brain tumor,
right?
Because like I have these headaches, or you know what I mean. They can't like prove or disprove you have headaches.
In addition to her hypochondriac episodes, Christine was suffering from hallucinations, specifically, or I guess most often, complaining about seeing red dots in front of her face. She had also tried several times to complete suicide by slashing her wrists and overdosing on pills. By the age of 16, Christine was diagnosed as medically incapacitated, meaning she was clinically unable to participate in her own medical decisions. In 1979, Christine had 6 bad check charges against her and had acquired a juvenile delinquent record, which is sealed. So that's all we know about that. Shortly after this, though, Christine began working as a babysitter for her neighbors and family friends as a way to make money.
It's rough because like that is like such an appropriate job.
Yeah.
For someone who like would have a hard time getting into like the workforce.
Yeah.
You know.
In her confessions, 19-year-old Christine, so she's 19 at the time all this happened.
Oh my gosh.
When she goes to jail.
It's only like 5 years after she got forced into marriage, lost a baby, you know.
19-year-old Christine offered no explanation for her actions, saying, quote, "I just choked Travis for no apparent reason. I just picked him up off his pallet and choked him to death and laid him back down. I just killed him. That's all I got to say. I don't know why." End quote.
Was he the first one?
He was the last one.
Oh, okay.
She gave more details about what happened to each of the children. When explaining Cassidy's murder, Christine confessed that at around 8:30, the baby began to get rowdy or in some way was bothering her. In order to stop it, Christine picked her up and choked her until she stopped breathing and turned purple. On July 13th, Christine voluntarily entered the psychiatric unit in Tallahassee, and a psychiatrist noted that she was suicidal. After a psychiatrist noted she was suicidal. A week later, she was released and placed under arrest and held without bond. In December of 1982, Christine Falling was sentenced to life in prison. Before she was sentenced, while she was being held in the Calhoun County Jail, she also confessed to strangling Wilbur Swindle.
Is that the old man?
Her confessions earned her a plea deal that kept her from having to admit to the murders of the 2 cousins and prevented her.
What does that help her with?
I know.
Just like because it's her family, like then you don't have to say it. Like they know.
Well, Jennifer was her niece too.
Yeah.
That's why I think maybe Jennifer and Joseph weren't siblings because she told the mom that she killed Jennifer. But so she got a plea deal, and it also prevented her from receiving the 6 death sentences she was potentially facing.
Well, I mean, you can't kill her 6 times anyway, so I guess.
Unless she has 9 lives.
Wow.
Christine Falling was denied parole in 2006 for acting up and being violent in prison.
She's not gonna fare well in prison.
She has not fared well in prison.
Yeah, that sounds like they would not. Oh.
She was eligible for parole again in November of 2017 after serving 25 years in prison.
Why?
No one attended the hearing in support of Christine. The parole board said they have never seen nobody show up. Her parole was rejected.
The problem with a small town, too.
With prosecutors telling the review panel the so-called babysitter from hell deserved no mercy. The parole board agreed that she continued to be a threat to society. She is currently imprisoned at the Lowell Correctional Institution in Ocala, Florida, and is eligible for parole again this year, 2024. And her sentence, if she does not receive parole, her sentence will be served in its entirety by 2254.
How's she gonna get parole when there's still a 200-year difference? Right? Isn't that 200 years? Like, how do you?
But like, life with the possibility of parole means every you get to try. But like,
that's so soon.
Yeah,
25 years. That's crazy. That's tragic.
Yeah,
for all involved.
I know. I can't believe that that's like a serial killer we don't hear about.
Yeah.
And there's like nothing I can find on it.
Yeah.
I think that's like the shortest case I've done.
That's a multiple murder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Sad babies. Yeah. Well, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.